The stars looked different tonight. Alex Reed noticed it first while working the night shift at the Deep Space Monitoring Station in Colorado. He rubbed his tired eyes and checked the readings again. Something was moving out there, beyond Neptune's orbit, something big. Alex took a sip of his cold coffee and zoomed in on the anomaly. He had worked at the station for 5 years and never seen anything like this. The object wasn't following any natural pattern. It wasn't an asteroid or a comet, it moved with purpose. "Hey, Diane, can you take a look at this?" he called to his supervisor. Diane Miller crossed the room and leaned over his shoulder. Her eyes widened as she studied the screen. "That's not one of ours, is it?" she asked quietly. Alex shook his head. "Not ours, not Russian, not Chinese. I checked twice." Diane's fingers flew across the keyboard, running verification protocols. "It's changing course. Again. Whatever it is, it's coming. Toward us." The phone call started immediately, first to their superiors, then up the chain to military command, then to Washington. By morning, observatories around the world confirmed what the Colorado station had found. An object of massive size had entered the solar system and was accelerating toward Earth. 6 weeks later, the world was different. News channels ran non-stop coverage about the approaching visitor. Religious groups proclaimed the end times. The stock market crashed, then strangely stabilized as people realized money might not matter soon anyway. Alex now worked directly for a newly formed international task force. He barely slept, studying the object's movements and helping coordinate global observation efforts. "It's slowing down," he told the crowded meeting room of scientists and military officials. "Current trajectory puts it in Earth orbit in about 8 days. General Frank Simmons stood at the head of the table. "Defensive options?" Dr. Karen Wells, the lead physicist, shook her head. "The object's mass is enormous. Nuclear weapons would be like throwing pebbles at a tank. So we just wait for them to arrive?" someone asked. "Them?" General Simmons raised an eyebrow. "The object has been making controlled course corrections," Alex explained. "It's not natural. It's a ship." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "We need to prepare for first contact," Dr. Wells said finally. "And we need to do it together." The next week was a blur of activity. World leaders actually cooperated for once, terrified into unity. Military forces were placed on high alert, but instructed not to show aggression. Scientists worked around the clock to develop communication methods. On day 8, exactly as predicted, the object entered Earth orbit. It was massive, nearly 2 miles long with a strange metallic surface that seemed to shimmer between solid and energy states. It positioned itself over the Pacific Ocean, far from any landmass. Then it waited. 3 days passed with no communication. The alien ship simply orbited, silent and watchful. Earth held its breath. Then, on the morning of the 4th day, every electronic device on the planet activated simultaneously. Phones, computers, televisions, radios all displayed the same message in every human language. "We are the Galactic Council. We come seeking Earth's assistance. The galaxy burns." The message was followed by coordinates for a meeting point in international waters. Each nation was invited to send 3 representatives, 1 leader, 1 scientist, and 1 military advisor. Alex didn't expect to be chosen. He was just an analyst, not even the highest-ranking one. But Dr. Wells, specifically, requested him. "You saw them first," she told him, "and you understand their movement patterns better than anyone." That's how Alex found himself on the deck of the USS Lincoln, watching a smaller craft detach from the massive ship above and descend toward the meeting point. Beside him stood Dr. Wells and Admiral Scott, representing the United States. Similar, groups from 20 other nations waited nearby on their own vessels. The alien craft touched down on the water's surface with barely a ripple. It hovered there, sleek and silent, before a doorway appeared in its side. A ramp extended to the platform that had been hastily constructed for this moment. The first alien walked down the ramp, and Alex felt his world shift again. It looked almost human, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, but with blue-tinted skin and eyes that seemed to contain galaxies. It wore what appeared to be a military uniform of some kind, adorned with symbols Alex couldn't decipher. Behind this figure came two others, one clearly older, wearing elaborate robes, and another in what seemed like a lab coat covered in pockets and tools. The military figure spoke, its voice surprisingly normal. "I am Admiral Laura Bennett of the Arcturus Alliance," she said. "This is Council Elder Graft and Chief Scientist Varrock." Someone gasped. "You speak English?" Laura smiled faintly. "We speak all your languages. We have been monitoring your world for centuries." "Why?" asked the French president. "Initially out of caution," Laura replied. "Your species develops differently than others. You advance through conflict rather than cooperation." "And now?" Admiral Scott asked. Laura's face grew serious. "Now we need exactly that quality. A force known as the Void Collective has emerged from the galactic core. They are a hive mind species that consume civilizations. They have already destroyed 37 worlds. Screens appeared in the air, showing images of planets burning, strange shadow-like entities swarming across stars. Alex felt sick watching the destruction. "The collective adapts perfectly to any strategy used against them," Laura continued. "They learn, they evolve, they counter. The Galactic Council's conventional forces have failed to stop their advance." "So what do you want from us?" General Simmons demanded. "We can barely reach our own moon. How could we possibly help against something like that?" The alien scientist, Varrock, stepped forward. "Your unpredictability, your chaos, your human element." Dr. Wells frowned. "I don't understand." "The Void operates on perfect logic and patterns," Laura explained. "But humans, you are emotional, intuitive. You make leaps of logic that defy rational analysis. You fight even when the odds are impossible. You create art and music that stirs feelings the Void cannot comprehend." Elder Graft spoke for the first time, his voice deep and resonant. "Long ago we made a decision to quarantine your world, to let you develop in isolation. Some wanted to destroy you, fearing what you might become. Others argued for watching and waiting." Alex felt a chill. "And now?" "Now," Laura said, looking each human representative in the eye. "We need you to become exactly what we feared. We need humanity's fire, because the galaxy is burning, and Earth might be its last hope." The silence that followed was broken by a sudden alarm from the alien ship. Laura received a message through some unseen device, her face growing pale. "The Void Collective has breached the quarantine zone," she announced. "They've destroyed our outpost on Pluto. We have less time than we thought." Alex looked up at the stars, wondering which ones had already fallen to this unknown enemy. Earth had just learned it wasn't alone in the universe, and now it was being asked to fight for that universe's survival. The galaxy had called. It remained to be seen how Earth would answer. 6 months passed since the arrival of the Galactic Council's ship. The world had changed completely. Dr. Samantha Collins stared out the window of her new office at the Joint Species Research Center. The massive building had been constructed in record time on neutral territory in New Zealand. She watched as human workers mingled with the blue-skinned Arcturians and the tall, willowy representatives from a dozen other alien species. 5 years, Ego Samantha had been laughed out of academic conferences for her theories about non-terrestrial intelligence. Now she was Earth's chief scientific liaison to the Galactic Council. Sometimes she still couldn't believe it. Her computer chimed with a message from Nathan Harris, Earth's diplomatic specialist. "Meeting in 10 minutes. Admiral Laura has news." Samantha grabbed her tablet and hurried down the hallway. The center was a maze of laboratories and meeting rooms where humans worked alongside alien scientists, learning centuries of advanced technology in a desperate crash course. Nathan waited for her outside the main conference room. He looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes and wrinkled clothes. No one slept much these days. "Any idea what this is about?" Samantha asked. Nathan shook his head. "Nothing good. The Void took 3 more systems last week." They entered the conference room where representatives from Earth's United Defense Force gathered around a large table. Admiral Laura's holographic form appeared in the center, blue-tinted and slightly transparent but impressively detailed. The Void Collective. As accelerated its advance, Laura began without preamble. They've adapted to our standard defenses faster than expected. We need to implement the human integration phase now. General Simmons frowned. We're not ready. The retrofitting of our vessels is only at 60%. We don't have a choice, Laura replied. The collective has changed course. They're heading directly for your solar system. The room erupted in questions and exclamations. Laura raised her hand for silence. We believe they've detected our activities here. They now recognize Earth as a threat. Samantha leaned forward. How long do we have? At current speed, 3 months before they reach the outer planets. Nathan stood up. You've been watching us for centuries. You knew about this threat. Why? Didn't you prepare us sooner? Laura's holographic eyes met his. Politics. Some council members believed humans were too dangerous to be given advanced technology. They feared you might become a worse threat than the Void. And now? Asked Samantha. Now we need exactly what makes you dangerous. Laura waved her hand and a new hologram appeared. Designs for hybrid weapon systems. Dr. Collins, your team's work integrating Earth's nuclear technology with our energy systems has shown promising results. We need to scale up immediately. Samantha studied the designs. Her team had discovered that Earth's comparatively primitive nuclear weapons, when coupled with Arcturus containment fields, created unpredictable energy patterns that the Void struggled to adapt to. We'll need more resources, she said, and I need access to all your data on how the Void processes energy signatures. Laura nodded. You'll have it, and we're sending our best ship architects to help with the retrofitting. Over the next weeks, Earth transformed. Old enemies worked together with singular purpose. Factories ran around the clock, building components for the hybrid defense systems. Space agencies launched daily missions to equip the growing fleet in orbit. Captain Jack Donovan watched from the bridge of the USS Defiant as his vessel underwent its final modifications. Once an aircraft carrier, it was now something entirely new, humanity's first true starship. His executive officer, Commander Olivia Martinez, entered the bridge with 2 Arcturian engineers. Final checks complete, Captain, she reported. The new drive system is online. The weapons platforms are at 96% efficiency. Jack nodded. What about the crew? Mixed, as ordered. 200 humans, 75 council specialists. Everyone's tense but working well together. Jack studied the alien visitors on his bridge. Despite months of cooperation, trust remained fragile. The aliens watched humans carefully, especially around the new technology. They still don't trust us, he said quietly to Olivia when the engineers moved away. She shrugged. Would you? We're the galactic equivalent of giving toddlers flamethrowers, and yet here we are. Because they're desperate. Olivia checked that they weren't being overheard. Have you seen the battle footage from the outer systems? Nothing stops these Void things for long. Jack had seen it. The Void Collective moved. Like living shadows across space, absorbing energy, matter, even light itself. They learned from each encounter, becoming stronger. A communication alert sounded. Admiral Laura's face appeared on the main screen. Captain Donovan, your vessel will lead the first defense group. The Void Collective has breached Saturn's orbit. You deploy in 6 hours. Jack felt the weight of her words. Humanity's first interstellar combat mission would begin in their own solar system. Understood, Admiral. We'll be ready. After the call ended, Jack addressed his bridge crew, human and alien alike. Today we take the fight to an enemy that threatens all sentient life. They expect us to follow Council battle doctrine. They expect patterns they can adapt to. He paused, looking each crew member in the eye. We're going to disappoint them. In the research center, Samantha worked frantically on last-minute adjustments to the weapons systems. She had discovered something in the Council's data. Something they might have missed. The Void operates on perfect logic, she explained to Nathan, who had come to see her before departing with the diplomatic vessel. But their processing has limits. They struggle with certain types of chaos. Nathan leaned against her desk. That's why they need us. Humans are unpredictable. More than that, Samantha said, eyes bright with discovery. The void is a unified mind. They think as one. But humans? She pointed to brain scan comparisons on her screen. Our minds are individual. We feel differently, think differently. The council races evolved through cooperation. Their brain patterns show remarkable similarities, but humans, we're all over the place, Nathan finished. Exactly, and that's our advantage. As Nathan left, he passed a restricted section of the building. On impulse, he used his diplomatic clearance to enter. Inside, he found a vast database of council records about Earth. Curious, he began searching through files. What he found chilled him. The council hadn't quarantined Earth to protect the galaxy from humans. The truth was far more calculated. They were saving us, he whispered to himself, preserving us as a weapon of last resort. In space, the fleet assembled. 50 vessels of Earth origin, now modified with alien technology, joined with 30 council ships. Captain Jack looked out at the stars from his bridge, Saturn's rings, visible in the distance. All ships report ready, Captain, Olivia announced. Then let's introduce ourselves to the void, Jack replied. Initiate chaos protocol. The human ships broke from the carefully planned formation, each vessel following independent patterns that seemed random, but were actually part of Jack's unorthodox strategy. The council commanders protested over the communication channels, but fell silent when the first wave of void entities appeared. Dark shapes moved against the stars, flowing like liquid shadows. The battle for Earth's solar system had begun, and for the first time since the war started, the Void Collective hesitated, faced with an enemy they couldn't immediately predict. The battle near Saturn lasted for almost 12 hours. Captain Jack Donovan watched from the bridge of the Defiant as his unorthodox strategy unfolded. Human ships darted in seemingly random patterns, never maintaining formation for more than a few minutes. The council vessels tried to follow the battle plan at first, but soon adapted to the human approach when they saw its effectiveness. They're retreating, Commander Olivia Martinez announced, her voice filled with disbelief. The void entities are pulling back. The bridge crew cheered. Jack allowed himself a small smile, but knew better than to celebrate too early. Damage report, he ordered. We lost 7 ships, Olivia replied, her expression sobering. 4 human, 3 council. Most others reporting moderate to severe damage. Jack nodded. The cost had been high, but they had achieved something no other force had managed against the Void Collective. They had forced them to retreat. Captain, said one of the Arcturian communication officers, Admiral Laura is requesting a conference. Minutes later, Jack joined a holographic meeting with other fleet captains and Earth Command. Admiral Laura's expression was grim despite their victory. Your tactics were effective, Captain Donovan, she acknowledged. But our analysts believe the Void is merely regrouping. They're learning from this encounter. Then we change tactics again, Jack replied. Keep them guessing. General Simmons spoke up from Earth Command. The President wants to know if we can push them out of the solar system completely. Laura shook her head. Not with our current forces. We need to fall back to Mars and prepare our next defensive line. Jack noticed the subtle shift. Earlier, Council representatives had given orders. Now they were discussing strategy as equals. The battle had changed things. Back on Earth, Samantha Collins worked frantically with her research team. The data from the battle streamed in, showing how the Void had responded to human tactics. Look here, she told her assistant, pointing to energy readings. When our ships broke pattern, the Void entities hesitated. Their response time increased by almost 3 seconds. 3 seconds doesn't seem like much, her assistant replied. In a space battle, it's an eternity. Samantha pulled up more data. And look at this. When the nuclear fusion hybrid weapons were deployed, the Void couldn't absorb the energy properly. They're struggling with the unpredictable radiation patterns. She sent her findings to both Earth Command and the Council representatives. Then she turned to her next project, a device that might disrupt the Void's hive mind communications. Meanwhile, Nathan Harris arrived at the Mars Defense Base with disturbing news. After discovering that Earth had been preserved as a weapon, He had dug deeper into the council records. He requested an urgent meeting with Samantha, Jack, and other key Earth representatives. They gathered in a secure room at the base, away from council observers. "They haven't told us everything," Nathan began, his voice low. "The Void Collective isn't a natural evolution, it was created." "Created?" Jack asked. "By whom?" "By an earlier version of the council, thousands of years ago." Nathan displayed ancient records he had found. They were developing weapons to fight another species like humans, adaptable, aggressive, innovative. They called them the Prometheans. Samantha leaned forward. "What happened to these Prometheans?" "They were wiped out. But the weapon created to fight them, a hive mind that could adapt to any strategy, didn't shut down. It evolved, becoming what we now call the Void Collective." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "So the Council created the very enemy they're now fighting," Jack said finally. "And they kept us in reserve in case their weapon ever turned on them." "Not all of them knew," Nathan clarified. "This information was buried deep. I think Laura and the current council leadership only discovered it recently themselves." Jack stood up, pacing the room. "Does this change our strategy?" Samantha shook her head. "Not immediately, but it gives me an idea." She pulled up her research on human brain patterns. If the Void was created to counter logical, cooperative species, then human unpredictability isn't just useful, it's their fundamental weakness. 3 days later, the Void Collective attacked Mars. The battle was fiercer than the one at Saturn. This time, the Void seemed partially prepared for human tactics, but still struggled with their unpredictability. On the Defiant, Jack and Olivia implemented what they called Chaos Protocol Phase 2. Each ship captain now had complete freedom to choose tactics, with minimal communication between vessels to prevent the Void from detecting patterns. "They're adapting faster this time," Olivia noted, as a Void entity absorbed a direct hit without slowing down. Jack nodded grimly. "We need something new." His communication officer called out, "Captain, priority message from Dr. Collins." Samantha's face appeared on screen. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "Captain, I need a volunteer team," she said without preamble. "I've developed a prototype device that might disrupt their hive mind, but it needs to be deployed directly into their communication network." "That's a suicide mission," Jack replied, already knowing he would volunteer. "Maybe not. The device generates a focused field of human brainwave patterns, the most chaotic emotional states we could record. If my theory is correct, it will cause temporary confusion in their network." Jack looked at Olivia, who nodded almost imperceptibly. "Send the specs. We'll get your device where it needs to go." As the battle raged around Mars, Jack led a small team including Olivia and 2 Arcturian engineers on a specially modified shuttle. They flew directly toward the largest concentration of Void entities, where Samantha's scans had detected unusual energy readings. "That's their command node," she explained over the comm. "The device needs to be within 100 meters to work effectively." The shuttle dodged Void attacks, taking damage but pressing forward. Jack maneuvered them into position as Olivia prepared the device. 15 seconds to activation, she reported. A Void entity slammed into the shuttle, tearing through the outer hull. Warning alarms blared as oxygen levels dropped. 10 seconds, Olivia continued, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. The entity began seeping through the breach, its dark form reaching toward the device. 5 seconds. Jack sealed the bridge door containing the breach. Through the window, he watched as the Void entity surrounded the device. Activation. The device pulsed with strange energy. The Void entity seemed to convulse, its form becoming unstable. The pulse spread outward, and across the battlefield all Void entities briefly froze. "It's working," Olivia shouted. The effect only lasted 30 seconds, but it was enough. When the Void entities recovered, they withdrew from Mars, orbit retreating to the outer solar system. The damaged shuttle limped back to the Defiant. Jack and Olivia were immediately rushed to medical care, but both insisted on reporting to command first. The device worked, Jack told Admiral Laura and Earth Command. But the effect was temporary. They'll be back, and they'll be ready for it next time. Laura nodded. But you've given us something we haven't had before, time. And now we know they can be hurt. On Earth, Samantha reviewed the data from the device. It had worked better than she expected. But she needed something, stronger, more permanent. We need to broadcast the full spectrum of human consciousness, she told Nathan when he visited her lab. Not just confusion or fear, but everything. Love, hate, joy, grief, wonder, rage. The complete chaotic package that makes us human. Nathan looked at her notes. Is that even possible? Samantha smiled, exhausted but determined. We're going to make it possible, because the galaxy is still burning, and Earth is finally answering the call. 2 weeks after the Battle of Mars, Earth leaders gathered for an emergency meeting with the Galactic Council. The room was tense. Reports showed the Void Collective regrouping faster than expected. Admiral Laura stood before the assembly, her blue skin looking paler than usual. The Void has adapted to our initial tactics, she said. We estimate they will attack Earth directly within 10 days. Screens around the room displayed the approaching Void forces. They were massive, far larger than what they had faced at Saturn or Mars. General Simmons leaned forward. What about the Council's reinforcements? You said more ships were coming. Laura's expression grew grim. 2 Void splinter groups attacked our supply lines. The reinforcements won't arrive in time. Nathan Harris, sitting beside Samantha Collins, stood up. I think it's time for full disclosure, Admiral. Tell them what you told us about the Void's origins. A murmur ran through the Earth representatives. Laura hesitated, then nodded. The Void Collective was not a natural evolution, she admitted. It was created thousands of years ago by our ancestors. A weapon designed to fight against another human-like species called the Prometheans. The room erupted in shocked exclamations. Laura waited for quiet before continuing. Most of the current council didn't know this truth. It was buried deep in our archives. Nathan discovered it, and our historians confirmed it. So we're fighting your mistake, the Chinese representative said coldly. Yes, Laura replied simply. A terrible mistake from our past. The weapon was never meant to evolve into what it has become. Samantha stood up next. This information actually helps us. The Void was designed specifically to counter logical, cooperative species. That's why human unpredictability is so effective against it. She activated the main display, showing her research. My team has been working on an improved version of the disruption device we used at Mars. We call it the Consciousness Disruptor. It broadcasts amplified human brainwave patterns directly into their communication network. But the first device only worked temporarily, Jack Donovan pointed out from his seat. He and Olivia had recovered from their injuries and returned to duty. This version is different, Samantha explained. Instead of broadcasting confusion or fear, it transmits the full spectrum of human consciousness. Everything from love to rage, wonder to grief. The complete chaotic package that makes us human. Will it work? Asked President Garcia. In theory, Samantha admitted. But we need to test it directly on their main consciousness hub, not just a command node. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. That would mean going straight into the heart of their forces, General Simmons said. How would we even find this hub? Admiral Laura displayed new scan data. Our scientists believe it's here. She pointed to an unusual energy formation at the center of the Void forces. This is where all their communications seem to originate. Jack exchanged a look with Olivia. We'll need a special team, he said. A small, fast ship that can slip past their outer defenses. It would be a one-way trip, Laura warned. Not necessarily, Samantha countered. If the device works as intended, it could create enough disruption for the team to escape. President Garcia stood up. How long until this device is ready? 3 days, Samantha replied. Maybe 4. And how long until the Void reaches Earth? 10 days at their current speed, Laura answered. The president looked around the room. Then we have no choice. Dr. Collins, complete your device. Captain Donovan, assemble your team. The rest of us will prepare Earth's defenses as best we can. After the meeting, Nathan pulled Samantha aside. "There's something else in the archives you should see," he said quietly. "About Earth." They went to his office where he showed her the classified files. They weren't just protecting the galaxy from us, Samantha realized as she read. They were saving us for when they needed a weapon they couldn't control. Nathan nodded grimly. "We were their backup plan all along." "Does that change anything?" Samantha asked after a moment. Nathan considered this. "Maybe not. We still need to stop the void. But afterwards..." He left the sentence unfinished. 3 days later, Samantha's team completed the consciousness disruptor. It was larger than the prototype, requiring a specialized ship to transport it. Jack and Olivia volunteered to lead the mission, along with a small crew of humans and Arcturians who had fought together at Mars. "The plan is simple," Jack explained during the mission briefing. "We'll use the battle as cover to approach the Void's central hub. Once in position, we deploy the device and get out as quickly as possible. And if it doesn't work, someone," asked Jack's expression remained steady. "Then humanity will need to find another way." As Earth prepared for the coming battle, Nathan negotiated with the Council representatives. If they survived this, he wanted guarantees that Earth would have a place as equals in the Galactic Council, not just as a weapon to be used when needed. People kept us in the dark for centuries," he told Laura. "That ends now." To his surprise, Laura agreed. "This war has changed how many of us see humans. You're not just unpredictable, you're innovative in ways we never expected." The day before the Void was expected to reach Earth, the combined Human Council fleet took position. Every available ship had been called in, creating the largest defense force Earth had ever assembled. Modified commercial vessels flew alongside military ships, all equipped with Samantha's hybrid technology. From the bridge of the Defiant, now serving as the fleet's command ship, Jack and Olivia prepared for their mission. A specialized stealth vessel called the Shadow waited in the launch bay, equipped with the consciousness disruptor. "The device is ready," Samantha reported over the comm. "Remember, once activated, you'll have about 30 seconds before the effect begins. Try to be at least 1,000 meters away by then." Jack nodded. "Understood." Olivia checked the final systems. "All green, Captain." Jack looked around at his volunteer crew, 4 humans and 2 Arcturians who had fought beside him at Mars. "Last chance to back out," he told them. No one moved. "All right then," he said, "let's make some noise." The first void entities appeared at the edge of Earth's orbit, just as dawn broke over North America. They moved like a dark cloud, blotting out the stars. The defense fleet engaged immediately, implementing random attack patterns that had proven effective before. But this time the Void was ready. They had adapted to human unpredictability, responding with countermeasures that seemed to anticipate even chaotic movements. "They're learning," Olivia said as they watched the battle from the Shadow. Jack nodded. "Then let's teach them something new. Launch when ready." The Shadow detached from the Defiant and slipped away from the main battle, using the chaos as cover. They accelerated toward the center of the Void formation, where their scanners had identified the central hub. Void entities noticed them almost immediately, breaking off to intercept. "Evasive maneuvers," Jack ordered. The ship twisted and turned, barely avoiding the reaching tendrils of darkness. "Hub in visual range," reported the sensor officer. 200,000 meters in closing." A massive void entity moved to block their path. It was unlike any they had seen before, darker, more defined, almost solid in appearance. "That's it," Samantha's voice came through the comm. "That's their primary consciousness." "Brace for impact," Jack called. The Shadow surged forward, straight toward the entity. At the last possible moment, they veered away, but not before the void damaged their engines. "Engine 2 is down," Olivia reported. "We're losing speed." "Get us within range," Jack ordered. "We only need one pass." The Shadow limped toward the hub, taking more damage with each passing second. Systems failed across the ship as void energy seeped through the hull. 100 meters, Olivia called out. "Device is armed and ready." "Activate," Jack ordered. The consciousness disruptor powered up, its lights blinking from yellow to green. A pulse of energy radiated outward, invisible but powerful. 20 seconds to full effect, Olivia said. We need to move. But the engines failed completely. The shadow hung in space, directly beside the void hub as the device reached full power. Evacuate, Jack ordered. Everyone to the escape pods. As the crew raced to obey, Jack and Olivia remained at their stations trying to restart the engines. 10 seconds, Olivia said calmly. You should go, Captain. Jack shook his head. Not without you. Commander, 5 seconds. They looked at each other one last time as the device reached peak output. The consciousness disruptor exploded with pure human emotion. Love, hate, joy, grief, wonder, rage, all broadcast directly into the heart of the Void Collective. The War hub entity seemed to shudder, then crack like glass. Similar effects spread throughout the Void forces. The last thing Jack and Olivia saw was light pouring through the cracks in the darkness before everything went white. 3 days after the consciousness disruptor activated, the remains of Earth's fleet gathered to assess what had happened. The Void Collective had broken apart. Where once there was a unified darkness, now there were thousands of separate entities, drifting and confused. From the bridge of the Defiant, Admiral Laura and General Simmons watched as Council ships carefully approached these fragments. Are they still dangerous? Simmons asked. Laura studied the readings. They seem to have lost their hive-mind connection. They're individuals now, not a collective. And the shadow? Any sign of survivors? Laura hesitated. We detected emergency beacon signals from several escape pods. Search teams are on their way. Samantha Collins joined them, looking exhausted but relieved. The device worked better than we expected. It didn't just disrupt their communication, it fragmented their consciousness entirely. How? Simmons asked. Human emotions are contradictory, Samantha explained. We feel love and hate simultaneously, hope and fear, joy and sorrow. The Void was designed to counter logical, predictable patterns. When faced with the full spectrum of human consciousness, it couldn't adapt. It broke. Laura looked thoughtful. Perhaps it didn't just break. Maybe it evolved. Before they could discuss this further, a communication officer called out, Admiral, we've found survivors from the shadow. 4 escape pods had been located containing 3 human crew members and both Arcturians. They were alive but injured. What about Captain Donovan and Commander Martinez? Simmons asked. The officer shook his head. Still searching, sir. Hours passed with no further news. Rescue ships combed the area where the shadow had last been seen, but found only debris. On Earth, celebrations began as news spread that the Void had been defeated. But those who knew Jack and Olivia felt the victory was bittersweet. Nathan Harris worked with council representatives to draft a new agreement. Earth would join the Galactic Council as a full member, not just an ally or a weapon. Human ships would have access to interstellar travel, and knowledge would be freely shared between species. This marks a new era for both our peoples, Elder, Graft told him during the signing ceremony. We feared what humanity might become if allowed among the stars. We never considered what you might become if truly needed. Nathan signed the document, thinking of the price paid for this moment. We're not perfect, he said. Humans can be dangerous, unpredictable, but we can also be kind, creative, passionate. That is why the Void couldn't defeat you, Graft replied. You contain multitudes. A week after the battle, with hope fading, a Council scout ship reported an unusual finding. A small section of the central Void hub had reformed into what appeared to be a protective sphere. Inside were 2 life signs, one human, one very faint. Rescue teams rushed to the location. What they found astonished everyone. Jack Donovan, unconscious but alive, curled protectively around Olivia Martinez, who barely clung to life. Surrounding them was a shell of void matter, but unlike the destructive force they had fought, this seemed almost protective. It's as if part of the Void adapted in a different way, Samantha theorized as medical teams worked to save the officers. Instead of breaking completely, it absorbed some of the human consciousness, perhaps emotions like compassion or sacrifice. Jackie recovered quickly, but Olivia remained in critical condition for days. When she finally opened her eyes, Jack was beside her bed. "Did it work?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Jack smiled, taking her hand. "Even better than planned. You should see what's happening out there." Over the following months, Earth experienced a transformation. Council ships arrived daily, bringing representatives from dozens of species eager to meet the humans who had stopped the void. Technology was shared, and the first truly human-designed starships were constructed. The remaining void fragments were studied carefully. Most had dissipated harmlessly, but some, like the one that had protected Jack and Olivia, showed signs of individual consciousness. They weren't the mindless weapon they had been created to be, but something new. Entities capable of growth and change just like humans. 6 months after the battle, a memorial service honored those who had fallen. Jack and Olivia, both recovered and assigned to Earth's first official interstellar vessel, stood beside Samantha, Nathan, and representatives from Earth and the Council. "They didn't die for nothing," Jack said quietly, as the names of the lost were read. The galaxy was burning, and humanity answered. Samantha looked up at the stars, now filled with possibility rather than threat. "What do you think we'll find out there?" "Trouble, probably," Nathan replied with a small smile. "But also wonders beyond imagination." A year to the day after the void first entered Earth's solar system, the newly commissioned vessel Horizon prepared for its maiden voyage. Its mission: exploration rather than war, diplomacy rather than conquest. Captain Jack Donovan took his place on the bridge, with Commander Olivia Martinez at his side. Their crew was a mix of humans and council species, working together as equals. "Course laid in, Captain," Olivia reported. "Where to first?" Jack looked at the star map, at the countless worlds waiting to be discovered. Some might be friendly, others hostile. All would be unprepared for humanity's unique approach to the universe. "Everywhere," he replied with a smile. "Let's make some noise out there." As the Horizon left Earth's orbit, Admiral Laura watched from the Council's flagship. Elder Graft stood beside her. "Are you still concerned about releasing humans into the galaxy?" he asked. Laura considered this. She had witnessed humanity's capacity for violence, but also their remarkable ability to create, to adapt, to feel emotions that her own people sometimes struggled to understand. "The galaxy needed Earth's fire to survive the darkness," she said, finally. "Now perhaps it needs Earth's light to grow." On the Horizon's observation deck, Samantha and Nathan watched their homeworld shrink behind them. The blue planet that had once been isolated now had a voice in galactic affairs, a role in shaping the future of countless species. "Do you think we're ready for this?" Samantha asked. Nathan looked at the stars ahead, each one a possibility. "I think the real question is the galaxy ready for us?" The Horizon accelerated to light speed, carrying humanity's representatives to worlds unknown. The galaxy had called in its darkest hour, and Earth had answered. Now that answer would echo across the stars for generations to come. Behind them, Earth continued to change, growing into its new role. Children looked up at the night sky and dreamed not just of visiting other planets, but of meeting those who lived there. Species that had once feared humans now sought their counsel, their creativity, their unique perspective. The galaxy was no longer burning, and Earth was no longer silent.